KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is Attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know's been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you have been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, to the dismay of my next two guests, call us at the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we are the Valley's law firm. Hey, folks, I usually shy away from hot topics and political discussions on this show. I get enough agita in my job at the law office. But certain events or trends in society can be so overwhelmingly concerning that even the most even-keeled of citizens have to start speaking out. When it comes to California politics and the long push towards decriminalization of the very laws that are designed to protect U.S. citizens, to say that one should be, quote, concerned is certainly an understatement of mega proportions. Over the past 10 to 15 years, our criminal justice system in California has been modified, bastardized, and downright eviscerated. Trust me, I'm a defense attorney for 32 years, and I'm the one saying this. What your state politicians are doing is nothing short of criminal. They are radicals and they are anarchists, and I normally don't speak in these political terms, but I have to speak out. And you and I suffer as a result of it. To describe it as concerning is certainly not apropos. Most I would say more alarming, distressing, aggravating, sickening. They've ruined the most beautiful state of all the 50 states, if you ask me. Look around your town. There's homeless, drug-addicted zombies, thefts, car break-ins, assaults, graffiti and vandalism, which I've always said is the genesis of the downfall of a society. Public urination and defecation, anti-police rhetoric, things as simple as red light runners and speeding is becoming notorious. Open marijuana and drug use by those who are the first to receive handouts from us, the taxpayers. All of this societal trauma has many a good citizen approaching a falling down status, if you ask me, if you remember the movie Falling Down. And as Popeye said, I've had all I could stands and I can't stands no more. There's a group in California that could no longer wait for the pendulum to keep swinging so radically to the left. They are led by my next guest. He is the retired district attorney of Ventura County and is now the head of the California District Attorney Association, and he is accompanied by an old friend of the show and a friend of mine personally. So I'd like to welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show CEO of the California District Attorneys Association, Greg Totten, and from the Tulare County District Attorney's Office, Tim Ward. Welcome, Greg and Tim.
Great to be with you.
Hey,
yeah.
Nice to see you again, Mark.
Is that an apt description that it's we are reaching a falling down status that California has been ruined as a result of this decriminalization, basically?
I think very, very frankly, we are at a tipping point in California, and the voters get it. The voters are keenly aware of what they're seeing. Part of what's occurring, unfortunately, is some politicians, some in the media, are telling the public crime is down, don't believe your lying eyes. And yet the public, if they walk into a CVS, if they walk into a Target, they see regular products that they need every day, detergent, baby diapers, very simple things locked up that they have to literally call a clerk to get help for. And the reason that is occurring is because those stores are suffering mightily as a result of Proposition 47, and they're being stolen from on a regular basis and are arguably somewhat helpless to address the problem.
Greg, you said that the public gets it, and I guess you could see it out there that it's palpable, that it's something we see on an everyday basis. It literally is so depressing driving around. But the public that may get it, quote unquote, are also voters. And the question that you have, and I know you got to be scared about this, do the voters, those same people, get it when they go to the ballot box? They've been tricked into this Prop 47. We're going to be talking about. You guys have an initiative to try to repeal some of the effects of Prop 47, but it was called the Safe Neighborhoods Act. And
Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act.
And Schools Act, right.
Yeah.
So are they going to get it? Are they going to be fooled back into it? Or are those voters just, they're Californians that have a liberal bent and they're going to continue to vote for this stuff?
Well, that's a great question, Mark. And the best answer I've got for you comes from the poll that we conducted in November of 1,200 registered California voters, across all demographics. And what that poll showed is that over 80% of those individuals that recalled voting for Proposition 47 now favor amending it because they recognize what a disaster it's been.
Right.
And if you think about Proposition 47, it was characterized as something that was going to produce more treatment, less jail. It had what many would say were laudable objectives, but in its implementation, it has produced less treatment and it has produced more crime.
Let me ask you, because you sort of give it an out by saying that. Was it, I mean, as soon as they were proposing it, I said, this will never work, okay? From a defense attorney standpoint, my clients needed the hammer at the end. Basically, if you don't self-rehabilitate, or if you don't enter into a program at the suggestion of a judge, or if you don't do the program that the judge has sentenced you to, you're going to be doing a long period of time. And it took that hammer away. So was there laudable objectives that it even had from the very beginning, or was it all a sham from the beginning?
We are trying to address what I would characterize as unintended consequences of Proposition 47. One of its goals was to reduce prison population. It has certainly done that. But the other goal was to increase treatment rather than jail. It has not done that. It has utterly failed in that effort. The very subject that you're bringing up about the hammer to get people to change their behavior, what we're seeing now with drugs, as just one example, is that at most, somebody's cited for possessing hard narcotics, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, which is killing thousands of people every year. You possess those drugs, and at most you're going to get a citation. About 75% of those people will never even show up for court. And of those people, and you know this, those people that do show up to court, they're going to be offered a treatment program, but the choice for them is going to a 12 to 18 months treatment program, or be back on the street that afternoon using drugs. And they're going to choose the latter. And
I won't say the family members, et cetera, but a lot of the judges basically finally have come to the point to where they just say, you could either do an 18-month program, or this is now akin to a DUI. And on a DUI, we give 5 days on a work program. So I'm going to give you 5 days on a work program. And they always choose the work program.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. So, but to the issue of whether it was a sham or not, as you stated, one of the goals was to reduce some of the prison populations, and it seems to have done that. Well, but that seems to be what the real underlying goal was. It from the first place is just to reduce prison populations, because it came in line right after Prop 57 or AB 109
after realignment.
After realignment, yeah.
The title of it was certainly misleading and shamefully misleading. Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, a voter sees that and assumes it's going to make them safer. It's going to make their neighborhood safer. Right. It's going to make their schools safer. It did not accomplish that purpose, but it markedly contributed to a reduction in prison population.
And you said that your initiative, and I don't know if it was on record or off record, I went to say on air or off air, has a name to it that you were giving it, but that gets reviewed by who?
The Attorney General.
The Attorney General. We are on with Greg Totten from the California District Attorneys Association talking about Prop 47, and Tim Ward will remaining silent over there from the Tulare County District Attorney's Office. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. We'll be right back after this. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Hey, folks, check out KMJnow.com, or wherever you stream. You could stream the show. You could stream all the shows from KMJ, as well as the Marc Kapetan Show. Also, check us out on YouTube. Marcella? Facebook? Rumble? I don't know. All that social media stuff. Check us out. Also, if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, who do you call, Marcella? The Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. She knows. The Kapetan Brothers. All right, folks, we are on with Greg Totten, who is the former district attorney, 18 years in Ventura County?
Yeah, I was elected to 5 terms, served 18 years as the DA.
5 terms?
Yeah.
Wow. In Ventura County?
Yes.
That's really impressive. I mean, Tim, how many you are so far now?
Gosh, I was appointed as DA in 2012. So, 12 years?
Yeah.
Wow, 12 years.
12 years. Yeah, no kidding.
Jeez,
so that's two
yeah.
terms right now, right?
I'm in my third.
Oh, third term. Wait, are they 4-year terms or
They're 4-year terms.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking judges.
I left a little early on the fifth term.
And no thoughts, Greg, from Ventura County, by the way, former district attorney, now the head of the California District Attorneys Association. We're talking Prop 47 and their attempts to repeal many of the provisions of Prop 47 this next election coming up here in November. No thoughts of being a judge or anything like that?
No, I
didn't want to do it.
You know, I was encouraged to seek a judicial spot at various times in my career, but I loved being a prosecutor. It's one of the greatest jobs you can have in the justice system.
And so you never even attempted to run or anything like that as a judge?
No.
Hey, by the way, so my brothers and I ran for judge. It was this, I won't go into the whole story. My one brother became a judge. The other two were just doing it to support the other one. How exciting is the election process?
You know, it is exciting when you've got your name on the ballot. You feel a little exposed, and you have to be in touch with your community. I think the very best thing about running for office is you learn about your community in a way that you could not otherwise do. You become connected to your community in a way that would otherwise be impossible. And so, from my perspective, during my first campaign in 2002, where I was running against the son of a billionaire, I developed relationships and friendships that I still enjoy today with people that I would not have otherwise met.
And for you to do that, I mean, that's tough because I'm assuming they had all the money in the world to put up to run against you.
Yeah, I was outspent by at least 3-1.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people we've managed some elections too, or campaigns too. And I say, you're going to find out, and you don't want to blame them for it because they may just choose sides based on things that you don't know, but you're going to find out who your friends are real quickly. Are you ready for it? And everybody always tells me, oh yeah, I'm ready. And then about 2 months later, they come to me crying, literally almost in tears, because they just weren't ready for the dirtiness of elections and how harsh it is.
Politics is a blood sport, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
And you have to be prepared for it.
Which is going to be interesting for you guys doing the initiative process on repealing these Prop 47 because there is not potentially that blood sport aspect because it's not a personal thing. It's how are you finding it so far?
Well, first of all, to be clear, we are not repealing Prop 47. We are maintaining some of the provisions, but we are markedly amending it in a way that we think will enhance public safety, reduce homelessness, and prevent a lot of the retail theft that is just exploding.
Okay. So that's one of the questions that I'm going to leave after this next question is why not repeal it? So what is the proposal that you guys have?
It has 3 pillars, Mark. The first pillar is to address the retail theft and smash and grab that we're seeing. So we have provisions that right now under existing law, under Proposition 47, you can steal every day repeatedly, and as long as those thefts are under $950, it is treated as a misdemeanor.
Right.
And so essentially in California, misdemeanors are very nominal offenses. They don't produce much in the way of consequences. And so there's a degree of lawlessness that we are seeing as a consequence. So we restore that. We restore petty theft with a prior so that someone who is a serial thief, who is repeatedly preying upon small business and big business alike, can be held accountable for a felony.
Does the dollar amount stay the same, or do we lower the dollar amount back?
We did not change the threshold, but what we did change is California's law of aggregation makes it virtually impossible. It's all but the rarest of rare cases where we can aggregate. And aggregate is when you take multiple acts of theft and you add them together to reach the $950 threshold. Under California, it's all but impossible to do that. We have simplified that process in the initiative so that we can more easily aggregate those repeated thefts to reach the $950 threshold.
Does the repeated thefts include, I take a lipstick here and I take a bottle of makeup here, and those that could be aggregated right there?
Sure. I mean, but those items aren't going to reach the $950 threshold.
Well,
but if you
if you're shopping where my daughter does, so
and the way and the way you see, I was just watching a documentary on the San Francisco Target. Basically, the way you see these thieves just sweeping items into bags, it likely may aggregate to that amount.
Well, and the lock and key that you see in that video of Target, I mean, in some cases, the thieves are going in and literally breaking glass and grabbing what's behind it.
So, which is another crime in and of itself. The repeat offenders. Go ahead.
Pillar.
Yeah, please.
The second pillar is focused on fentanyl. And fentanyl is killing thousands of young people in this state every year. It is, without exception, in 40 years as a prosecutor, it is the most lethal and dangerous drug I've ever seen. A kilo of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people. So 2.2 pounds of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people, and it is exceedingly dangerous. It's being laced into other drugs because it's a synthetic. It's incredibly inexpensive. So we have added fentanyl to the list of dangerous drugs. We have also dealt with the issue of fentanyl traffickers, people who sell large quantities of fentanyl. Or sell fentanyl and are armed with firearms. Then the third pillar is the pillar that deals with, we think, the homeless problem. Here in California, since Proposition 47 was approved in 2014, we have seen an explosion in homelessness. Our homelessness rate is up 51%. The rest of the nation has gone down 11%. If you look at the chronically homeless, the people who are homeless for long periods of time, 80% of those individuals have substance abuse and mental health issues. And so part of the problem with that is by taking away the felony consequence in Prop 47, there's no incentive for somebody who has a serious drug problem to go into treatment, just as you described. They'll be out in 5 days at most. So we restore felony consequences for the third time you are arrested for possession of one of the 5 most dangerous drugs: cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, PCP, and fentanyl. On that third time, you become eligible for what's called a treatment-mandated felony. Because our goal is to get people into treatment. Our goal isn't just to incarcerate them. If they agree to go to treatment, and if they successfully complete treatment, then their conviction can be expunged. If, however, they don't, they're going to go to jail.
Right.
And so we believe by doing that, it will profoundly impact the homeless population.
Okay, so then, and you got to understand, I don't know if it's a Kapetan thing or what, but we're slash and burn. You know, we say, no, get rid of it all. Go back to, you're charged with a felony. You could maybe get probation, but you're going to be, you're going to have this hammer hanging over your head. What's the reason for not just overall repeals? Is it because you know the California voters? Is it baby steps? What is it?
I would say it's largely a recognition of the political environment that we exist in, and California voters and the mindset of California voters. We felt that was a bridge too far. There are some things in Proposition 47, recognizing that a first-time offender doesn't deserve a felony, recognizing that in our administration of justice, there has to be a place for mercy. There has to be a place for lesser consequences.
Yeah.
And so we felt it was important to recognize those considerations and also be aware we are in the bluest of blue states.
Yeah.
This is not an electorate that's going to support the traditional throw out the baby with the bathwater kind of approach in criminal justice.
Yeah, and part of the problem that we have in some of these counties is some of the judges are throw out the baby with the bathwater, and there is no sense of justice or sense of compassion. I'm not sure if I would be one of those judges or not, quite frankly. So I'm not sure if the approach of baby steps is the proper way of going, but I think at least it's a step in the right direction. We're going to be right back with Greg Totten right after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Check us out at kmjnow.com or wherever you stream. We are streaming live. And you can check it out on the podcast at kmjnow.com. So please go to all those places. Go to YouTube if you want to check the Marc Kapetan Show specifically, and Facebook and all those kind of things. Like us, subscribe. We got a pretty significant amount of subscribers so far. I would love for you guys to subscribe. Also, if you're looking, we're looking for a sponsor. If you'd like to sponsor the Marc Kapetan Show, call Marcella at the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. That's 559-498-8000. She's my wonderful, lovely producer. We are back on with Greg Totten, who is the former district attorney out there for 18 years in Ventura County, also with Tim Ward, who's the current district attorney out at Tulare County and a friend of the show. Funny enough, being on opposite sides of the desks out there in court. We were talking, I made a comment at the end there. Greg is also the head of the California District Attorney Association, and they are leading the push to repeal many of the elements, let's say, of Prop 47, which was the Safe Neighborhoods Act and Schools Act that was passed years ago by the voters, and that has, we think, resulted in what you see in your cities and towns: homelessness, drug addictions, vandalism, graffitis, all that kind of stuff, just a mess. But I was saying, I'm basically the throw the baby out with the bathwater, repeal the whole darn thing. And there was an interesting conversation that you guys had between you about how, Tim, you had to go to a lot of the district attorneys and say, wait a minute, we may have that kind of thought of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but there's a better approach here, and we think Greg has it.
Yeah, there was a time when I'll say the initial was kind of the conceptual phase. Many of the district attorneys were in support, recognizing that we needed to do something, but it became quite clear, for all those reasons Greg was talking about in the climate, that some DAs wanted more. Right. You should go to prison. There are certain, and some of those were from I'll say the hardcore law and order, but then there were some. Our good friend who's the district attorney in Riverside County, great guy, Mike Hestron. His jail is under a mandate to release individuals, and we had a case, you may remember, we had a joint case here. Tulare County and Riverside shared a defendant, and the reality is, for no fault of the district attorney's office, and certainly no fault of the very good sheriff down there, this person who was given a lengthy term was literally booked into the county jail and within days mandated to be released. So the provision, or a big provision of this, that does have that carrot and the stick aspect for those that do not choose the rehabilitation and the treatment, you go to jail. But there's some DAs that realize that, or felt, I should say better at the time, that that's not enough, because our local jails cannot house them. And we recognize that. We struggle with that, I think. Listen,
most of the DAs that I know, including you two guys, are law and order DAs. I mean, it's rare that you're going to find a Gascon, basically, who's basically an anarchist. When it came to, so I think everybody's in favor of switching this pendulum, basically reversing the swing of this pendulum. But when it came to realignment and stuff like that, I remember on the first day of realignment being announced, going to Sheriff Mims here, saying I would gather all of your sheriffs together, hold your hands together in a chain, and surround your jail and say, you are not going to put your problems, state, governor, in our local jails. And what I talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, complete repeal. So you got them, you guys have now decided, listen, that may be too far of a step to go. Is this hopefully the first steps in having that pendulum swing back? Is that, I think, the overall goal for you?
Well, our principal goal is to get this approved by the voters in November. It's clearly going to qualify. I don't think I wouldn't want to suggest to your listeners that we've got a larger agenda that we're pursuing, but I think there are, as you pointed out in your introduction, there have been some policy changes coming out of the legislature that have been very destructive for public safety, that have been very destructive for the residents of this community, that are doing damage, that are making the job of being a defense attorney, a prosecutor, a judge exceedingly more difficult. They're making many of those decisions have taken away the finality. We continue to litigate cases now decades
right
after the conviction and sentence was handed down, in part because of these decisions. Now, there isn't a prosecutor in the state or in the country who, if somebody has been wrongfully convicted or if somebody has been improperly sentenced to too lengthy of a sentence, no prosecutor wants that to stand.
Right,
we want to address that. But these laws are not affecting.
And what you're talking about is a lot of these laws are retroactive, and they're going back and taking convictions from 20 years ago and basically saying you need to relitigate them or resentence them or dismiss them altogether, basically.
Correct.
You say that, listen, we don't want to impress upon the fact that to the voters that there's some sort of agenda here. I don't know if I would be that apologetic, Greg. I think, yes, there is an agenda here, and that is to restore California back to what it used to be.
Yeah, here's an agenda. Let's look at the humanitarian crisis. Every day, we have sons and daughters, brothers and sisters dying in our gutters and our sidewalks, and we're turning a blind eye in the silence of what's happening. Let's have the agenda. Let's prevent at least one of those. What's the value of that?
Absolutely. What I meant by an agenda is, we have an agenda to pass this initiative. We have an agenda to make a difference in our communities, to make a difference in the homelessness problem. What I'm not saying is that this is the first of multiple steps.
Greg, again, I would tell you, don't apologize for that. I hope it's the first of multiple steps.
Okay.
I hope as the leader of the California District Attorneys Association, you say, great, we're going to get this passed, and it's going to confirm to us that California voters and citizens have had enough.
Mark, aren't you seeing the blessing that we had? I was on the board. I think I was the vice president of the District Attorneys Association when Greg's tenure was coming to an end in Ventura, and the blessing that we were able to bring him over and have him take the reins in the leadership of the association. We're very fortunate for that. So thank you.
How many in the how many district attorneys' offices do you guys represent?
We represent 56 district attorneys' offices.
Oh, wait, so it's all of them?
And so,
there's two. There's two that are not members. The Alameda District Attorney and the Los Angeles.
And there are members, some city prosecutors are members as well.
That's right. There's 58, not 56 counties, and
we represent over 3,500 deputy prosecutors statewide, though.
All right. We talked about whether law and order DAs compare to non-law and order DAs. What's your background? How did you become a district attorney? Mom and dad, where were you born? I understand you were just basically a surfer kid back in the day.
I was indeed. I grew up in Riverside County, and went to a community college by the name of Chaffee Community College, which is where I met my wife, now of 40 plus years, and then went on to San Francisco State and ultimately Pepperdine Law School.
Yeah, Pepperdine.
My interest at that time was in business. I thought I would wind up being a corporate lawyer. And one summer, I had just gotten married. I interned for the lead homicide prosecutor in Ventura County, who became a dear friend of mine and encouraged me to become a prosecutor. Yeah. And I've never looked back. I've never regretted a day for any time becoming a prosecutor. It's been a wonderful profession.
Well, I go ahead.
Tim. Mark, let me do a segue here. Greg, would you mind sharing with us some of your experience in the Ventura DA's office as an intern?
I want to get to that right after that. That's my question. The law school dean of your school at Pepperdine says Greg has been an incredible example of a public servant. He has served as a model to our students, alumni, faculty, and staff. It has brought the whole Pepperdine community great pride. So we're going to be right back with Greg Totten, former Ventura District Attorney, right after this. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, I'm going to skip all the shameless plugs that we normally do on this show because we do have a very serious topic. We are on with Greg Totten, who is the former district attorney from Ventura County, who's leading the charge to repeal many of the aspects of Prop 47. So I just want to turn it over to Greg and have him talk to you directly to the voters. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Mark. We're asking you this November to vote for a ballot measure called the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. If you want to stop the rampant retail theft that you're seeing every day in our communities, if you want to reduce homelessness that is such a plague upon our communities and is such a humanitarian crisis, and if you want to stop the scourge of fentanyl, please vote yes on this initiative. It is an important public safety. It is an important justice issue for all Californians.
Do you guys have enough signatures so far?
We turned in 911,000 signatures. I'm absolutely confident the measure will qualify.
Okay, it'll be on the ballot then.
Yes.
Yeah,
We will know June 13th for sure, but we have no doubts.
Greg, talk about the volunteer effort to get signatures and how successful that was.
Yeah, we secured almost 50,000 volunteer signatures, which is literally unprecedented in a statewide ballot initiative. That's how wildly popular this initiative is. Here in Fresno, I think this radio station hosted an event where
KMJ.
people were lined up to sign it. We've had multiple events across the state where we had long lines of people waiting to sign it. It's that popular because the public sees it.
You know, we're arguing the merits of Prop 47, the merits of your proposition to repeal many of the aspects of it. The one thing you have to say to the voters is we could get deep into the weeds about all of this kind of stuff, but there's no one else out there doing anything to try to have an effective change in the homelessness and in the drugs, the scourge of drugs here out on the streets. And this seems to be one of the first start. And so I can't imagine not voting for it, whether it's to your liking or not. I can't imagine not voting for it because something's got to be done, and you seem to be one of the only guys, you and your group seem to be the only ones that are proposing anything like this.
And our group is extraordinarily large. We have 1,000 small business owners who have signed on to the coalition. We have a very diverse, it's nonpartisan, it's a very, very big tent. It's not just a bunch of law enforcement
Are you
officials.
feeling the pushback already from the left side?
Yes, yesterday there was a big announcement in the legislature of a spate of proposed legislation, and you know this as a defense attorney, that says they're going to fix the retail theft problem without going back to the ballot. Well, Proposition 47 was very clear in its language. The only way you can increase punishment under Prop 47 is to go back to the voters.
Right.
And so the proposals, some of them well-intentioned, some of them we as an association will support, but they're not sufficient to fix this problem. They have to go back to the ballot.
And I don't know if you trust the people that are making these proposals, because it's too late as far as some of these proposals that they have. It's the businesses are gone. They're leaving. San Francisco's empty half the time. You know.
We had one small business convenience store owner in the Sacramento area that told us 6 out of 10 individuals who enter his store were stealing.
Oh, God. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they stay in business or why they would want to stay in business. Besides the fact that Tim says he's a better golfer than you.
He is.
Oh, really? Oh, you're not joking? Okay. You've had a great life as a district attorney. You are now working on this with the California Association of District Attorneys. But you have an interesting story about the fact you were an intern at the district attorney's office in Ventura and working on a wrongfully accused case. What was that all about?
Well, when I first clerked between my second and third year of law school in the DA's office, the first case I was assigned involved a double homicide that occurred in the Hillsides. Lyman and Charlene Smith were brutally murdered. Charlene had been sexually assaulted, and we had a suspect in that case by the name of Joe Alsop. Joe Alsop was a business partner of Lyman Smith. Lyman Smith was a very prominent local attorney. He had at one time been a prosecutor. By all accounts, he was about to be appointed to the Superior Court by then Governor Jerry Brown. He had a business partner named Joe Alsop, and this I'm revealing public record.
Yeah.
Joe had his fingerprints on a glass that was found at the scene of the crime, and they had a falling out in their business relationship, so he became a suspect. We ultimately charged him, and took him all the way to preliminary hearing and got a holding order. And ultimately, after weighing the case, the decision was made by the then district attorney to dismiss.
What year was that, Greg, do you think, if you can remember?
That was 1982, 83.
Of evidence that was discovered that he was not?
The interesting thing that happened in that case is there was a local pastor. There was the house where they were murdered was literally right across the street, adjacent to a major church in Ventura, in the city of Ventura. And there was a pastor there that alleged that Alsop had confessed to him. And we later learned there were reasons to dramatically discount what the pastor said. But another very interesting thing that occurred in the case is Alsop was hypnotized. There was a time period where law enforcement used hypnotism on occasion, and my first task on the case was to prepare a motion responding to claims that it violated the People versus Shirley decision, which was a brand new decision at the time of the case.
Did they find the real quote unquote killer?
Yeah. Fast forward to 2018, Greg. What happened?
One of the things that occurred, and I give a lot of credit to the whole team that was involved in this, but especially Anne Marie Schubert, the former district attorney of Sacramento. One of the things that progressed between the time of the original crime and it being solved was DNA. DNA is without exception, the most valuable tool that has come down the criminal justice.
Believe me, tell my clients, right?
Criminal justice forensics path in my entire career. Out of Sacramento, they had an investigator that had been involved in a Canadian case where they had identified a child's parents through genetic genealogy by entering a DNA profile into these DNA genetic genealogy databases. And when that was done, they were able to identify the child's parents. Well, this investigator thought maybe that could be used in the Golden State Killer case.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Nope.
This case that you worked on as an intern, they found out that the real killer was the Golden State Killer.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay, listen, we could go all into the Golden State Killer because I know you worked on that case also. Looking back on it, did you always think that this Alsop may have been the real killer? How does that mess with your mind when you find that out years later? Or did you have yourself convinced that you didn't think he had done it either?
I think by the time we dismissed the case, I was convinced. I wasn't making the decisions on the case. That wasn't my role. I was a lowly law clerk in the office, but I greatly respected the people who were in charge of the case, and they ultimately concluded we didn't have the right person. And I concurred with that. I will tell you, we had task forces that would come together across jurisdictions in California on a periodic basis, and we had lots of suspects we looked at over time. And these task forces worked very hard to solve the case. But until we utilized genetic genealogy, that was the sea change that enabled us to solve this.
I have a case right now. We're gonna end up the show here, but I had a case right now that there was a young intern sitting. Actually, I think a first year DA sitting with the district attorney, and the district attorney says, "Listen, this is a crap case." And they're thinking about dismissing it right now. And it's the best lesson that you could have to basically, be a young attorney and understand that not all the cases are winner cases, basically. Yeah. Greg Totten from the California District Attorneys Association. Prop 47. Go out and vote regarding the, what's it called?
Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. We do not yet have the number that...
Right. And Tim Ward, our old friend from the Tulare County District Attorney's Office. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. Thanks to my producer, Marcella Solorio Taylor. We'll see you next week.